So on the Zoom meeting last week when I was on there, did y'all see most of the roof of the dump truck?
Yeah.
I started.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, Jackson County Board of Commissioners. Today is March the 16th, 2021. I know yesterday was the Ides of March. If anybody ever remembers the Ides of March and the importance of that in the Roman calendar, and it was it Shakespeare, we learned about the Ides of March. My papa always told me, he said, you don't plant your potatoes until the Ides of March. I never did know what he meant by that growing up, but that is a significant day on the calendar. So today is the 16th, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, so we're right in between the Ides of March and St. Patrick's Day. First item of business is the proclamation that we want to entertain today before we actually approve the agenda itself. And I'll just go ahead and present this proclamation. We've got several that have joined us via Zoom today who are going to be listening in for this proclamation. And when I get through the proclamation, I also would like to take an opportunity maybe to recognize some of them to see if they may have any comments or give them an opportunity to speak. So today's proclamation is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This is going to be for the month of April 2021. And the proclamation reads, whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month is intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has public health implications for every community member of Jackson County. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment impact our community as seen by the number of Jackson County survivors seeking assistance from their assaults, and national statistics indicating that 1 in 5 women will have experienced sexual assault by the time they complete college. And whereas the County of Jackson is committed to educating our community about what can be done to prevent sexual assault and how to support survivors. And whereas staff and volunteers of anti-violence programs in Jackson County encourage every person to speak out when witnessing acts of violence, however small. And whereas with leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is compelling evidence that we can be successful in reducing sexual violence in Jackson County through prevention education, increased awareness, and holding perpetrators who commit acts of violence responsible for their actions. And whereas Jackson County strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners, and of every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts, including conversations about what sexual violence is, how to prevent it, how to help survivors connect with services, and how every segment of our society can work together to better address sexual violence. Now, therefore, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month throughout this county, and urges all the people of Jackson County to learn about sexual assault and commit themselves to the community goal of ensuring that everyone in Jackson County can live their life free of sexual violence. What would be the pleasure of the board concerning the adoption of this proclamation?
I move that we accept this proclamation on Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any question or discussion? If not, then all in favor of the proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And like I said, we do have, and sometimes it's hard to see who is on the screen here. I thought I saw Wesley Myers at one point. Looks like Jennifer Turner. There are others. Yeah, I see. So Wesley, I'll let you go first, but let me just say first as we sort of transition, give y'all a chance to say a few words. I know the pandemic that we've experienced over this last year, which has been a full year now, a lot of changes have happened in the way our everyday lives, a lot of changes in the way government services work, but we've also seen some changes in our service providers and the way some of these services have been provided. We've seen some transitioning in this realm as well over the last year, and I just want to personally say today, and on behalf of our board, I know that Reach of Macon County has sort of been the provider and the one that has stepped up and took charge of all of these services, a whole host of them, for a pretty good while now. And we just want to be so thankful and appreciative to Reach of Macon County for all they've done over the years. We've just not really had an opportunity because of COVID and the pandemic to be able to interact and to have some of these discussions and to make some of these acknowledgments. But we do want to personally and publicly thank Reach of Macon County for all they've done and all they're going to continue to do. But some of these services are transitioning and segueing into new oversight and new areas. And so with that being said, I just want to make sure that our partners in Reach of Macon County knew how much we appreciated them. And I'll recognize Wesley first, and then I guess it looks like Jennifer on the screen maybe can go next and make some comments today. So Wesley, the floor is yours next.
Thank you very much. I will keep my statement brief in saying that we are also very thankful for Reach for providing those services and for giving us our step up into providing domestic violence services. We're incredibly grateful for the support that Jackson County has provided to us in getting started, and we're very excited for the future as we work with Reach of Macon County to transition into taking on sexual assault services in the next year to year and a half. We look forward to all of those opportunities and hopefully bringing more and complete services to Jackson County.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Turner Lynn. I'm the Assistant Director at Reach of Macon County. We just want to extend really our deepest gratitude. Jackson County government has really continued to be a huge supporter of both sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking services, and has really placed that as a priority. And I think that has stuck with us during this transition. I know when we took over services in 2012, it was supposed to be temporary. It doesn't quite feel as temporary now, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And we are ecstatic that the Center for Domestic Peace has already started with domestic violence services and will be, as Wesley said, in the next year and a half, transitioning for sexual assault services as well. Reach will continue to be present as a support system. Obviously, we still have our shelter. We are continuing to shelter folks from Jackson County for sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking. And we are continuing to see, as COVID rounds out its first year, continuing to see a huge increase in requests again for shelter and services. So again, thank you so much. We definitely could not have done this without your support.
Thank y'all. Mr. Woody, would you like to comment?
Yes, I would like to echo Chairman Matt Mahan's thanks, but I also wanted to give some recognition to our own Heather Baker, who serves on the board and has been very instrumental in helping with this transition from Reach of Macon to Jackson Center for Domestic Peace. So I want to extend thanks to Heather Baker for her efforts and hard work on our behalf. Thank you, Heather.
The agenda that has been sent forward, I have no suggestions or changes to the agenda. Are there any from the other board members today? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next is the approval of the minutes. You got your budget retreat minutes from February the 23rd, and then our regular meeting minutes from March the 2nd. After having a chance to review those in advance, as restricted by the clerk, what's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve the budget retreat meetings and also the regular meeting on March 2nd.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Administrative reports, I do not have a report to offer today. Commissioner Jones, I'll start with you today. Any report?
I do not have a report.
Okay. Commissioner Strickland?
I have tried a number of people from my agriculture board, and I can't seem to find. A lot of people certainly think about it, and we show it back, and I call that, they're like, oh, you know. Not sure if that's something I can do right now or just at the other. So,
We will work with you to help you on that. I know Commissioner Deeds,
yeah, I think Mr. Deeds.
Is that a word or way over that?
we got some time.
Okay.
Mr. Williams?
I would like to offer condolences to our, to Jennifer Abshire, our Director of the Department of Social Services, at the loss of her mother this week. And our prayers and thoughts go with her.
Very, very nice. Commissioner Deeds?
Well, also, I'd like to thank Sam Beck. He is a longtime chief of the fire department still. He's on one of our boards here. He's been a leader in the community. Great storyteller. Vice president. I taught students for years on fire chief. Sam Beck. Sam Earl, many years. Western Carolina University retired. It's all one thing that I was out yesterday, just across the street over here. Kind of once the vaccine we give, it still kind of amazes me how well we're doing that, how organized it is. Invite the sheriff's department to our maintenance people, to National Guard, to the health department. On down, how they're working together, that's true. We'll look back one of these days, like, you believe we have to do something. Massive, job. It's just, it's really great to see the work getting out of it. They're all pleased with it.
Absolutely. Mr. Adams, County Manager's report?
Yes, sir.
So Commissioner needs to follow up on your comments there. I did participate in a meeting this week with the health department staff. They did indicate that we're staying on pace with the state of North Carolina, and that 20% of our population here in Jackson County has received a minimum of their first shot. So I think we're progressing nicely towards getting our entire population access. Also want to let everybody know, and I think you heard this announced previously, that the health department has gone to an online registration process. You can go to their website and you can register. Generally, the calendar is released on Fridays. Normally it'll fill up by about Monday or Tuesday, and normally the first shots are given out on Thursday. So I just encourage everybody to follow up, stay in the health department's webpage, and as you fall within the categories or the groups, then get yourself registered and go get yourself a shot. As far as the manager's report, the first item discussed with the board is our standard report, the February 2021 zoning and building permit report. As you can see, the planning department issued 3 commercial zoning permits and 2 renovation addition permits for the month of February. And you can see that the code enforcement office issued 2 commercial permits and 3 non-renovation and addition permits. And details as far as the permits go. The next item is in regards to just our major construction projects. The first attachment you see 2A, you'll see their Animal Rescue Center, Green Energy Park. We're about 5% complete on that project. Demolition is complete. The contractors continue to work on grading and installing storm, water, and sewer lines. And so there's not really a lot of pictures other than just showing you that everything's been demolished, and you can see the sewer lines are going in the ground. The Blue Ridge School Water and Sewer Project, you can see this is our latest weekly report. And in the latest weekly report, what we have is, I believe the last report I gave you, you saw the foundation for the water building, where you can see the water building, water plant building is now going up. We also have the tanks delivered for the wastewater facility. So they're putting all the utilities in the ground, building the water building itself for the water tanks, and then you can see the tanks for the wastewater facility that's been delivered. The project is going relatively smoothly. We did run into, just found out this week, that there's a storm sewer that was coming from the school itself, going basically straight through the center of where the new wastewater plant will be. So we did have to deal with some change orders to basically reroute the storm sewer around the wastewater plant. Otherwise, knock on wood, everything is moving forward. Next item, and we have several pictures in here. Next item, and of course, everybody has heard that the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 has been signed by the federal government. It was signed March 11th. This act will allocate hundreds of billions of dollars for public health and vaccines, assistance for vulnerable populations, education and housing stabilization, economic recovery assistance, and direct assistance for families and individuals. So there's hundreds of billions of dollars allocated that specifically provides $362 billion in direct or aid to state and local governments, and more specifically, $65.1 billion to direct allocations to county governments. So what I've included in your packets is just a little chart that I pulled off the NICU website that talks about the $362 billion going to state and local governments. And as you can see right here, it talks about $65.1 billion in direct aid to counties. So what does that mean right now for Jackson County? For Jackson County, that direct allocation is going to be right now the number is $8,521,505. What we've been informed is, that may vary a little bit, but in essence, we're going to receive approximately $8.5 million in direct allocation. The first 50% will actually be allocated to the county within 60 days, so about $4 million. Darlene, Ms. Fox and I was talking about this, and that $4 million will be actually put into our bank account within 60 days. Uses for this can be respond to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 or its negative economic impacts, respond to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 emergency, and then also for provisions of government services to extent of reduction in revenue, and then any investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. I can tell you that right now, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners is working on some follow-up information to just help give counties guidance on how to proceed forward with this funding. I did sit through a NACO presentation in which what we're being told is that this money is intended to be utilized in a broader sense. So the uses that we have indicated here are the primary uses, but my understanding is we're supposed to be given fairly good flexibility in the use of these funds, and this will be something that we will want to continue conversations on in regards to what are some ideas and concepts of where these funds can be used. I can tell you, I will go ahead and just plant this seed for the board to start thinking about. We did have a proclamation here earlier. Mr. Chairman, I believe you did mention that the reference through the pandemic and things of that nature that unfortunately we had, whether it be homelessness or child abuse or spousal issues, human services issues have increased due to the pandemic. And I do believe that these funds will allow us to potentially look at those types of services, human services, along with economic impacts to maybe our businesses and things of that nature. So this is I think it's a good news for the county itself, and we have a lot of conversations with the other parties. Next item, it's actually on my written report. I'm not going to scroll back up, but it's in regards to a Rural Digital Opportunity Fund program that came out from the FCC in January 2020. This is written on my summary at the beginning of this slide. January 2020, the FCC launched a $20 billion program to expand broadband in rural areas. The first phase of the program targeted areas that do not receive 25 megabits a second down and 3 megabits a second up. Charter Communications, some people, their internet service is actually called Spectrum. Charter Communications has recently been awarded funding to service multiple parts of our region, so it goes beyond all the way to Macon, Hayward, and things of that nature. More specifically, they were awarded $16,978,000 to serve rural areas in Jackson County. I did get to sit through a little presentation from Charter, but they have 6 years to implement this. And so they're just now, they put in a bid, they won the bid, and now they're truly just now, they're starting to work to put together what a specific timeline would look like. And as soon as we know that, we'll share that with the board in public. I did want to take, if anybody wanted additional information, you can go, all you got to do is go and search Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, and you'll find this information on the FCC website. And what this is, and I know it's probably hard to see from sitting back there, hopefully people can see it online, but kind of give you an idea of where you're at. There's Silva, where my pointer is. All right. And so ultimately we see Dillsboro here. So the green areas, so there's the green areas that go around, say Bishop Creek, it's up in here, the green areas outside of Dillsboro. If I were to scroll down, Webster's here, where my pointer is. If I were to scroll down, here's Forest Hills. It really is the green areas that these funding would be used for to provide service. It's estimated that it's a little under 12,000 points of connection that they feel like they can get in these rural areas. So again, I'm not going to take you all the way through it, but I can scroll into just other sections here. So this is the Koala area. That's the National Golf Club. Supporting National Golf Club. So kind of give you an idea, it really is meant to serve areas that are considered very rural. And so as additional information comes along, I'll provide it. But see, I don't think there's enough information. You can see that's as far as I can zoom in on the map. So I don't think I can associate this map with any particular piece of the property.
As far as the color coding, the green, I can't. The red areas have
It's above the base.
above, okay. What's the black areas?
The black area is no winning bidder. There's no service in black. There's no, so they're not going to be bringing in. That's kind of what I'm trying to point out. Any
So they're
rural
not,
area-
this, all this money they're getting, they're not going to even address those areas that are black.
Yeah, that's the point that I'm trying to show you. Bill, where I'm getting that it's not included in there. This is intended Now, this is also Rich Price from here. He had this discussion with the board previously that we feel like that some of this information is provided to the SSC and also the state over-represents what services actually available.
Yes.
And so unfortunately, there's nothing we could have done with those maps, and this is how the bidding process came out. There is a second phase to this money. So this first phase was about 16 billion nationwide. Out of the 20 billion, there's a second phase of it, and I'm not sure where they're at. It's about 4 billion that best I could read on it will start potentially going to areas that's already served. But at this point, this is as much information as I have. When I sat through the meeting with Charter Communications, Ms. Thompson with our COG set that meeting up with the developer. Quite honestly, they didn't have much more information than what I just told you because they are currently just going through and they're just developing the true detail. That's the truth.
Do you know what kind of accountability is following this money?
I literally told you everything I know.
That's a huge concern. Well, you know, Frontier was supposed to be doing some of that years ago. They got a big grant and virtually there was no impact in our community as far as improving. And of course that was dial-up, but still it didn't improve people's access. And this is my big concern here. Now, it's the red where MetroStat is doing what at Western. I would assume that's.
That's Webster right there. I'm not really sure why they.
I was thinking that was where WCU has the, you know, energy co-op, so they have more extensive coverage.
So
See,
Colway is
something's not
one
right
of
with that.
yeah, and so this is something I know that I've just recently participated in this conversation. I had a brief, the PowerPoint that was provided, I don't have a copy of it right now. It was discussed region. All it was doing was breaking these maps down into a printable format. And ultimately, within that presentation, is the information I just gave. Was what they've been awarded. They did a county by county in our region. Basically the next steps at this point is Charter Communications is following through. They'll have to start developing a detailed plan of implementation and timeline. And ultimately that hopefully will start getting into answering some of the questions you may have.
I kind of agree with Gail, with them getting all this money. There ought to be more red spots that pop up in there where we got a bug service instead of the black. If they're getting all that money, they should be putting more towers in that to expand the state of the service. Don't you think, Gail? I mean,
Yeah, well, this is the map, supposedly what we currently have, is that correct?
Yeah, it's based upon, this is basically, and this is what I think it agrees with the local board, it's assuming that in this black area, that there is availability of 25 megabytes of SAT download and 3 megabytes, which we all know. I mean, there are certain areas like in Colby area, I know you can get it, I personally know you can get it right here, that speed, because I live in that area and I have that speed. But we also know that you go out into some of these other areas, I think you can come right across here and quite frankly, get into, and I'm just trying to go here where I live, but I just personal experience, I know you go back across 107 right here and not get that speed.
Right.
I didn't have that speed when I lived on the other side of 107. So we all know that 25 megs down per second is not necessarily available here, and that just has to do with, unfortunately, how they put these maps together.
Well, I know that you know, they didn't ask us what we thought, but I have to say this, and this is an ongoing conversation within the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. When those maps came out about where there was broadband, almost every county except in that triad area has pockets where they don't have internet. And they said, these maps are not accurate. I think what we have now, though, with having online school, we have a better picture probably than we ever have had of where you actually can get access to the internet. Because children have, in every community, been an online school. So maybe we need to advocate for them re-looking at where the pockets are by using the school board's information.
I would say, first, this is a brand new grant. It was just awarded.
Right.
Okay. And let's give Charter the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they've submitted a package. They were a recipient based upon their submission. They have shown data, they have shown a need, they have got a plan together on how they're going to address the needs. Let's give them a chance to attempt to do that.
Okay.
I don't think our manager knows that much about it. I can tell you right now, I know nothing about it. I can't even tell you what that map means. When I sit here and read those terms, I cannot tell you what those terms mean or what that map really represents. So I think it's sort of unfair for me to sit here and judge whether the charter can or can't do what they are going to have to do during the process. So I think we just allow this process to unfold. At least we've made some connections. The manager has sat down with the charter, has seen this presentation, and I think we just monitor it and watch it.
Okay.
And hopefully they'll be, if they do anything, can meet anybody, if one more person can get internet, it's better than what we got right now.
Yes, but, okay. I
I
think
just don't know, we don't know.
you're right, and I agree, and that it's true. I guess I'm skeptical because I feel like sometimes these big awards go and there's not accountability to find out if they're going to have the result that they've even said that they would have. So I would appreciate, yeah, and I think you're right. You don't know yet, you give them a chance.
So if you go regionally, I can tell you, again, I can't necessarily tell you, but whatever's presented in the communication to the regional economic development charter, the green area represents the areas. So I just wanted to zoom in, see Mackinac, see all the dark there. The green area are the areas that represented that they placed their bid on and worked to attempt to serve. And so at this point, I do go back and say the charter is now putting together their plan, and at a later time, they're going to present that. I don't think they're going to, I don't want to speak, but I do think ultimately, in order for them to receive the money, they will have to provide service in these areas. So, as soon as we get additional information from charter, it is a 6-year build out. So it's one of those things that I'm not necessarily saying we'll get a plan completely built out within a month or two, but we will be getting additional information from charter communication because they receive more than the monies that I presented to you. They receive money from these various counties. They receive awards on a regional basis versus not just for Jackson County. So ultimately, I do believe that they will have to put together a plan of how they proceed forward. If they plan on qualifying and receiving it. And as soon as I get the information, I'll share it.
Okay.
What I try to do, Commissioner Wood, is this is something I know a citizen said, have you heard this? So
Yes.
I'm trying to provide you the information that we have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have had some questions and what they wonder when they're going to have better service. So I'll say within the next 6 years.
Well, I think what you can say is this is all the information we know at this point.
You're right. That's
Okay.
fair. Yes.
The last item, I just wanted to bring attention to the board and also to the public. I've also reached out to our educational institutions, all of our nonprofits, and made them aware of this upcoming opportunity. Golden Leaf has initiated its community-based grants initiative in Western North Carolina in our region. And what I've done is I've just provided you, and I'm not gonna go and I'm gonna spend a tremendous amount of time, but provided you the basic information in regards to this. Ultimately, if you said, hey, look, is what they're doing is it's a competitive process in which they're going to allocate up to $1.5 billion per county in the Western Prosperity Zone, in which the county, and it's actually specifically the county manager can approve off of 3 applications to be submitted to be considered under this grant opportunity. This is actually a program that I had participated in the previous community when I came from right before I moved here. And this is a statewide program that basically the Golden Leaf Foundation just goes zone by zone and they attempt to make investments in your community. Now, ultimately, what happens is if you look, the projects are reviewed and awarded funds through a 3-stage process: county manager endorsement, a letter of inquiry, and full application. Ultimately, what they do is they provide characteristics of a competitive project, and I'm not going to go over all this. I'm just trying to provide you and the public this information. Things like strategic and sustainable are always good. If you go and look, they give you characteristics of low priority projects, as tourism, arts, cultural resources, shell spec buildings, energy, emergency services, including fire departments, general social services, reimbursements for prior expenditures and capital campaigns. They do talk about what their priorities are. And so economic investment, job creation, workforce preparation and education, agriculture, and community vitality. That is the reason when this program started, what I did was I reached out to SEC, I reached out to our K-12 program, I invited them to attend the initial training programs of this. I also sent notices to all of our nonprofits about this opportunity that's coming up. Ultimately, if you look at the timeline here, you can see that September 30th, 2021 is where letters of inquiry to county manager endorsement she just did. So I just want you to see that the actual award is not until April 2022. So this is a kind of a longer term process here. You can see that November 21, the staff release review, December 21, they make a vote, February 22 is when the proposals are due from the invitees, and then the award is April 2022. You can see requirements. You have to be a nonprofit or basically a government entity. And ultimately, what's happened is the Golden Leaf has acquired the services of the Rural Center, and the Rural Center is basically providing training and oversight on how you can apply for these grants. So if you look at the kickoff training, February 17, 2021, that's the training that I've seen that I invited quite a few of our nonprofits and our educational institutions to go ahead and participate in so they can be aware of this opportunity. You can see that they'll do a funding form in late spring, and in summer they'll have some other activities also. They'll be doing things like webinars, and then they'll provide team coaching. Our team coach in our area is Ms. Patricia Cantrell. Some of you may know Ms. Cantrell. I believe she may have worked here at SEC and then moved down to Western Carolina. And the funny thing about it, it's a small world. She was the coach. She was my coach from probably 10 years ago in another region. So Ms. Cantrell's got a lot of experience in this. And so if organizations have questions, if they're interested in proceeding forward under those categories, education, agriculture, economic, things of that nature, as you can see, you can reach out to the Rural Center and inquire, or you can also reach out to Golden Leaf and you can start following up and trying to get information. My role as the county manager here, as far as endorsement goes, it really is about trying to support the most competitive application in this process. I can tell you previously, when I've done this in a different community, it really was about ensuring that whatever got presented to Golden Leaf, that it, first of all, would fit within Golden Leaf rules, and it's something that they could vote to approve, but also that it was competitive. Because even though 1.5 million is available in Jackson County, this is actually a regional competitive process. And so that means we need to put forward our best projects. And that's my role. That's, I believe, the role of the coach here, Ms. Cantrell. And I just encourage nonprofits and I encourage educational institutions and other institutions who feel like they can meet. I'm going to go back up a little bit. Let's get. If they feel like that they would have a plan that meets all the rules, that's either under economic investment, job creation, workforce preparation and education, agriculture, or community vitality, then they need to really start researching this and start going through the process.
Mr. Woody?
Mr. Adams, it says here that it can be a government entity or a nonprofit.
Correct.
Do you have any plans for Jackson County to apply for any of these funds?
I don't have a project in the.
Okay.
Mr. Adams, in your form community that was eligible for this program, what were some projects that they were able to do?
Most of it was around workforce development. And that's why I specifically, if you look at workforce development, that generally falls in the wheelhouse of community colleges. And so if you look, the primary project awarded in previous community was community college, workforce development, and also workforce development through K through 12 program. And if I recall correctly, trying to remember the certification program that we did a bronze, silver, and gold certificate, and it was a workforce certification program that you have to insert into the high school. Something community college does often, and we ended up inserting that program into the high school, and then I can't remember, if I'm not mistaken, on the community college side, on the community I came from, it was a multi-use training facility. It actually bought a lot of the equipment that went into that facility, and like electrical trainers and things like that. So mainly it was around workforce development.
So is it possible that 1.5 million slated for Jackson County, if something at the community college and it's a free county, Swain, Macon, Jackson, would that make it possible to pool money for 4.5 million?
Yes, so what happens is they consider, Golden Leaf considers that a regional project, and they would actually consider that under it's the same program, but not necessarily directly under these exact rules. So let's just say the SEC came up with a regional program versus a specific to Jackson, then they would still have to abide by these categories, but it's a different application process. Okay. But they do encourage regional projects, and that's what they would encourage something like that. And I specifically had a conversation with Dr. Thomas. So, for example, if this timeline doesn't work quite right here, but if this grant opportunity came available, say, a year ago, 2 years ago, then the equipment that's being purchased for the health sciences building would just fall right into the wheelhouse of justification that we need this grant. Because you got workforce development. We all know that because of the healthcare field, we all know that there are jobs sitting out there. It's the same justification of getting the building built in the first place. But the timing didn't work out quite like that. So I think Dr. Thomas and the staff are looking at some other options.
Any other questions for Amanda? I don't believe we had anybody for informal comment that signed up, so we'll move on from that. Next is the consent agenda. The first item for consideration is the financial report for February 2021. And for that first item, we recognize Ms. Fox for finance director.
I'll go over the highlights for the month of February.
The general fund revenues were at $53,314,743. That's 73.8% of the budget. The expenditures are at $43,162,350. That's 61.33%. The revenues are $10,152,384 more than the expenses at this time. The ad valorem taxes collected are at 99.07% of budget at $34,630,949. The motor vehicle taxes collected $919,641 at 63.35%. And the prior year taxes, $551,793, that's 61.28%. We received the sales and use tax distribution for the month of February, and that was for November sales. That amount was $1,428,959. It's $175,526 when we received last February, and that's 14% increase. The sales taxes are still open at the higher level. The Article 46 distribution was $156,147. Landfill disposal fees collected $1,797,091 at 95.21% of budget, and the prior year disposal fees $45,837, 76.39%. On the growth revenue, we're still seeing increases above budget on code enforcement, environmental health, and register of deeds. The register of deeds is over $340,598. The general fund contingency balance at the end of February was $1,132,287. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the report.
Any questions? Next, we have budget ordinance amendment. One amendment.
I have one amendment. It's a net increase of $386,891. The revenues increased for sales tax, Dogwood Health Trust, register deeds, revenues, building inspection fees, home recovery fees, ABC permit fees, land development fees, floodplain, fire inspection fees, the insurance settlement. The insurance settlement is on the Department of Agency when we had the flood issue. And a decrease in fund balance that has previously been appropriated of $464,709.
Any questions about the budget ordinance amendment? I believe Ms. Henson is waiting at the door. Item 3, which is the tax collector and refund report for February 2021.
Good afternoon. The 2020 taxes collected for the county for $889,970 for the month of February. The delinquent taxes collected were $113,629. The total deposited for February was $1,071,335.24. Also for the month, there were overpayment refunds of $414.82, releases of $2,467.46, and the tax collection rate through the end of February was 95.85%.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we have now heard all 3 reports under the consent agenda. Having heard these reports, is there a motion to approve all 3?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? All right, any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Hicks, Chairman.
Yes, motion carried. Next is our new business. First item to be discussed is the audit contract for the county. This is with Martin Starnes and Associates CPA firm. Recognize Ms. Fox to highlight the contract.
This is the second year of the contract with Martin Stearns and Associates. It's for the fiscal year we're currently ending June 30th, 2021. And the amount of the contract is $3,600.
Any questions about the contract? We have a motion to approve the contract.
I move that we approve this contract.
Is there a second? I'll second it for discussion purposes. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Dees?
Well, some of the questions we could or should have, which I have none.
Well, I guess one could be, what is Ms. Fox and Mr. Adams' opinion about the performance of this company in years past? If they performed to standards, timely, those kind of things?
Last year was the first year of the contract, and it was a different experience. It was first year with the firm, and also we did everything remotely, so that was a challenge. But it worked out well.
And we had a very positive evaluation, didn't
We did.
we? Yes.
And
That was good.
I could basically say Martin Starnes is a well-known, and reputable firm in the state of North Carolina, and they actually have an extreme amount of experience, a large amount of experience in regards to auditing county governments. At one point, they actually have quite a few county government clients, and that is good for an auditor to have that type of experience, because that should help us trust that they know what they're doing, what they're looking for, and that they're going to provide the information that we need.
I think, in my tenure with the board, I think this is at least the third firm that we've worked with I can remember. And there's always a learning curve, especially when you start in a new year, trying to learn the office and the processes in place, but it gets easier with year two on. So it's always good to try to have consistency where you stick with a firm for a certain amount of time. Then it's always good to every once in a while change. I think we went through that. That's why we went through that last year. We had been with the previous firm for quite some time, and it was an opportunity to get some fresh faces looking at our numbers, fresh eyes. Other questions or comments? Okay. On the motion to approve the contract, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Dean,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Chairman Mack.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next is item 5, fireworks display request. I know Mr. Tony Elders, our code enforcement director, is joining us via Zoom. So Tony, when you get a chance to get unmuted, I'll let you go ahead and present the request.
Okay, yes, can you hear me, Chairman, Mr. Chairman? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. This is for a wedding coming up March 27th at Trillium. This is the second one we've had with this company at Trillium doing a wedding, actually during the pandemic. This will be the second one. Chief Dillard's aware of it. We didn't have any issues with the last one. It's just the normal approval process to get approved by the board before we can issue their permit.
We've heard the request. What's the pleasure of the board? motion to approve. Is there a second? Any question or discussion? All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Woody?
Yes.
Mr. Dean?
Yes.
Chairman Kane?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Elder.
Thank you.
Next is item 6, offer to purchase and contract. Also, we have resolution R21 -08. I recognize Ms. Baker to present this request for offer purchase.
Okay, just step out real quick to make sure Mr. Blank didn't, he didn't have the ability to do it.
Okay, yeah.
Jones is here. Come on in. If you go to stand right here, we don't have a lot of rain today. I'll hold this time for that, okay? And Jeremy Blank, and who's with you? Bye. Okay, this is an offer to purchase for a lot we own since 2016. Mr. Blank's offer is $6,600, which is the amount of the cost that the county has in the foreclosure. You can, if you want to scroll on down to the next sheet, I've got it highlighted here. We've owned it since June of 2016, and $6,600 was our cost. And it's, if you want to keep scrolling, the first aerial is a lot, but then the next one, I was trying to give you a perspective of where it is. That is, you can see pulling out the road here. So it's off of pulling out the road. Then the Bearpen community, we've had several of that other lots sell from there in recent times. And Mr. Blake did prepare the contract. You've got the first page there, but he did it with all of our stipulations that it is subject to the upset bid. He knows we'll be sending letters to the adjoiners to make sure they don't have any interest, but we have had it for a while. And then I think the last item is the resolution, and I can answer any questions you have. Mr. Blake is here to answer questions as well.
Any questions?
What do you plan on doing with the property?
We'll be developing a house, place for Mr. Rubaugh and
So it's for yourself? Okay, good.
And I have talked to him about restricted covenants. He's familiar with those. He's looked at them. He actually done quite a lot of due diligence and looked into it before he made that.
So today, Heather, if you would just recap our action today, to start the process.
That's correct. So this resolution would actually accept his offer, subject to the upset bid process. And so once his offer is met, we would rerun it, and the next opportunity we can in the newspaper, which would be next week. So it would come out a week from Thursday. That would start the 10-day upset process. So if no one bids in the next 10 days, once it's out, but in the newspaper, we can go ahead and close, and you're authorizing the chairman to sign all closing documents by this resolution. If there are upset bids, we go until there's a 10-day period where there's not been an upset bid, and at that point, I'll bring it back to you and show you the winning offer, so to speak. You have the option to approve it or not.
Okay. So hearing that, is there a motion to approve the resolution R21-08?
No, but make it.
Okay, have a motion from Commissioner Strickland. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other questions or discussions? Mr. Dees?
do you understand what you said, all that, you have said bid process and all that? Yeah, that's good.
Any other questions or comments? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Woody?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Strickland?
Yeah.
Chairman Kane?
Yes, motion approved.
Yeah.
Okay, next is item 7, solid waste. Is Mr. Parker with us?
He's outside.
Okay.
He's coming.
We recognize Mr. Chad Parker, our
Director of Public Works.
Good evening, or good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to come in. Mr. Adams had asked me to come in and update y'all on some solid waste rule changes that have happened here by the NC Department of Environmental Quality that affect us specifically here in Jackson County on some solid waste issues. So first one I want to talk about is, and these are quite a few rule changes dealing with permitting of facilities like compost facilities, transfer stations, everything basically except for MSW landfills, municipal solid waste landfills. That was the only thing that was excluded in the rule changes. So there's quite a few rules that changed, but I want to just go over a couple that have impacted us directly.
So Ms. Parker, if I may, just real quick, just give a little background. What's permitting now? What do we operate? What's permitting?
Yeah, Jackson County, we don't have an open landfill in Jackson County. We have a permitted transfer station, which is out on Middle Spring Road, if you're familiar with that. So that's the only permitted facility. We do have a closed landfill in Hillsborough, if you're not aware, but that was a permitted facility. It has since closed, initially in '97, and then C&D was developed in 2000 or something like that. So that's all we have in this county. And of course, the other thing that this is going to affect is convenience sites or staffing sites. So I'll go into those two things specifically.
So currently, we don't have permits for the staff sites.
Permits are not required for staffing sites. They're still not required. They've never been required for staffing sites. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on what they did there. But first of all, I wanted to talk about the transfer station rule adoption for permitting. Transfer station rules, I'm just going to be very generic on this, but I'll be specific in what they're asking us for. The transfer station rules initially were, when we built our transfer station, were about a paragraph in the rule. And now they're about 4 pages of rules to citing the transfer station and permitting the new transfer station. So what they did is in the rule changes for transfer stations, we want to look at all the transfer stations in the state to make sure that they're meeting what rules that they have adopted this year. And by doing that, they were requiring that each county submit a report to the state by June 30th, assessing certain portions of the transfer station facility that are already permitted. So basically what they're asking is the assessment report shall include an assessment of the status of the building, access roads, parking, and the leachate collection system in current operation compared to the design of the site as it was stated in the site permit. So we're in the process of doing this with the engineering firm now to get this report together for the state. That has to be turned in by the 30th of June. They give us, I think within 6 months, they're going to come back to us and just, I guess, get back with us on what they feel like that we should do to change to meet these rules. So that's one part of it. The other part that affects us, I mean, this is something that we have 3 years when they come back to meet those qualifications or whatever requirements that they're making us bring our facility up to standard. So I will say I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't know that for sure. We'll go through the report process. You know, our facility is only about 10 years old, so believe it or not, I think there's some out there that didn't even have roofs on them, things like that. Transfer station board, if you're familiar with them. So they just want to make sure everything's running to their standards. So the other thing that's going to affect us specifically here in Jackson County is they did define a collection center, which is our staff recycling center. So in the past, there was no definition in the rules for this. So this, when they defined this changed a few things for us here in the county, especially in the south of the county. Collection center means a collection point for the temporary storage of solid waste for individual residential households who choose to transport solid waste generated on their own property to a facility owned and operated by a local government, rather than directly to a solid waste management facility permitted in accordance with rules of this subject. So they define that, and then they have, it also says collection centers shall operate in accordance with the rules .0208A of this subject. That is permit exemption. Permit exemptions for collection, the SRC. So it basically says a collection center shall not receive waste generated from non-residential activities or by a commercial waste collection service. So in this end of the county, we use the transfer station as a permanent facility to be able to take waste from our haulage. We also have the site cashers that takes that material, we've in the past has taken that material from private haul. With this new rule, those private haulers will not be able to use that facility because it's not a permanent transfer station. It's a convenience. So if they pick up, basically that commercial waste collection service, if you're picking up garbage or higher, then you cannot use it. And this is the state. It's obviously not anything that we have done here, but and then also, which we don't, I don't think we've been doing a lot of this, but up there, I don't get any of that down here, but non-residential activity. So we're talking about just garbage, bag garbage from commercial facilities. We can't take that. We can't take anything that's garbage bagged from a private hauler or a commercial, what they're calling a commercial waste. And then there's another caveat to this that we do in capture, and we also do at our transfer station site in Silva, is take construction and demolition. There is, it says the following shall not be accepted as collection centers for the purpose of disposal: construction, demolition, or industrial waste from commercial or industrial sources. So we still will be able to take construction and demolition waste in cash, but it will have to come from, it can't come from a commercial or an industrial source. Which means basically, we're saying that if it's a construction site, it's a house, if it's a residential house that's being built, that's not a commercial source, that's a residential source. So we should still be able to take that material at our site and cash. So luckily, those folks don't have to haul it out. But if it is a commercial project and someone's building a commercial facility in the cashier's area, they're not going to be able to take it to that collection.
So let's make sure we understand the service is available in the southern end. So a commercial project, everything that goes into our convenience site there is actually unloaded into the construction of the debris site or container, and also into the compactor for the garbage.
Yeah.
So nothing goes on the floor. And just so you know, from a transfer station standpoint, if you're listening to Chad, part of the permitting process is about hatching leachate, and it's all about hatching the undesirable waste and making sure it doesn't go out into the environment. Well, nothing hits the floor at cash. And the reason that's important is because right now, from a commercial standpoint, if it's a residential house, if it's like a remodel, then somebody may put it on a trailer and haul it over there and load it. But if it's a house, most of the time they do have commercial service, dumpster service and capture, meaning they will go ahead and buy a commercial dumpster, rent a commercial dumpster. That dumpster is actually hauled to our transfer station down here. So my point is there's still commercial service in the area. And for most large jobs, people are not going to hand load it and go over and hand unload it. They're going to buy a dumpster, rent a dumpster, and use them. So when we start talking about construction material, I think it's important everybody to understand it's limited construction. It's limited to manpower putting it on a trailer by hand and taking it off. And that's where Chad and I talked about, we're pretty confident and comfortable that we just don't see that much commercial source waste there. I'm talking about for construction material, because anything of any size, and I would argue most houses, because of the size of the houses up there, they would not actually, I'm talking about if you're building a new house, they would not actually handle it there. They would probably rent a dumpster also, or roll off also. So the vast majority, would you agree, the vast majority of the construction material really reruns?
Right, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think most of the people are putting it on their pickup truck or on the trailer, and hauling it out there, and it is coming from a residential source. So it's still
But like you're saying, Mr. Parker, if it's like a small bathroom kind of job or something, if there's a few 2x4s, a little bit of gravel, or something, maybe you can take the gravel and throw it in 2x4s, you could.
No, you can take any demo construction or demo material, so there's any,
It can't be bulk, it's just like a small amount would be okay.
You put it on the trailer.
yeah, as long as it's coming from a residential source, and this basically says it cannot come from a commercial or an industrial. So as long as it's not coming from either of those two sources, then we should still be able to take it out there. But then if we are limited in what we can take at that facility, just because it is handling or it's never been about being able to take the dumpster and dump it out and, put it into a different, they actually have to physically touch a piece and unload it into the dumpster.
So, in the SRC,
No,
the SRC, that's down in South Carolina, close to South Carolina border, that has a mechanism where of scale. You drive over it, pick up Howard County $6.40 when you're doing that when you want my house. Get you a number on it. But they go over the scale, people exit, and that's how they come up with cost. The SRC in Louisville does not have that capability. So and what's really frustrating, I've had 2 conversations with private haulers and cashiers in the last, since this information came out, and the ridiculousness of me being able, I pay $78 a year for garbage tax in the county, yet I can't have a trash hauler company take my residential garbage and take it in their truck now to the SRC and drop it off in South Carolina. Because that's now classified commercial. So they're gonna have to haul this down to Silver, to the transfer station, yes, and pass those costs along to the customers. And we're talking about 45 minutes one way versus 12 minutes in cash. Adding to their route, their time, their labor. You imagine what kind of cost it's going to be passed along with that residential customer. I haul my own trash off, but nonetheless, it's ridiculous because these people, our residences are paying that tax already to utilize those SRCs. Who cares how it gets from that house to the SRC?
Unfortunately, the state does.
the state may,
But see, that's
have control.
their choice now. I mean, they could take their garbage themselves, but they choose not to. They'd rather not touch it and pay somebody to come pick it up. I think that's up to them. If you want the service, you pay for that and pay taxes too. If that's your
I
convenience.
agree with Mark, please. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Somebody on the creek where I live, pick up the cars, which we've already paid to take it by ourselves. We could take, they're gonna take it up for us. If they have to pay more to take it up for us. Well, I do all that other stuff. But, Mr. Woody,
Well, I did have a question. Last week, Phil and I picked up 4 bags of trash along Main County Road. And it wasn't our residential trash, it was people who had thrown it out. A couple of bags over the bank and things.
really,
So no, they didn't. So we took it over there, but we took it to our, the one in Dillsboro. Is that okay? I mean, it's not commercial, but it's not really residential, it's just litter pickup. And we're getting ready to do our big litter campaign.
It became yours when you picked it up.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
think you'd have to look at that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's your garbage, it's residential at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
what we do though, just to clarify a little further on that, is
Okay,
when the roadside, between the entire, the large main
Yes.
thoroughfare in Jackson County are picked up, then they do have to bring that to the transfer.
yeah, they have a big truck. It was full.
If someone's picking up garbage and they're picking up some litter, and they put it into the rest of their garbage, we're not gonna be checking.
Okay,
Do the
because
haul-
we're encouraging people in the next few weeks to start really, as you well know,
Yes.
to pick up along our road. And we really want that, not to be a penalty on those people, obviously.
Certainly, and one thing I did say here is recycle is exempt, so if somebody has commercial recycling.
Okay.
As far as I know, they can still bring that.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
Are the haulers, private haulers, for residences, are they weighed in and weighed out?
They are,
And what do they pay?
they don't pay anything.
It's just, amount.
Yes, we just keep up with the return. Just for statistic purposes.
So they didn't pay no dump fee at all.
Not a private hauler, but as long as it's residential waste. And
Those people
clarify
are
further,
overpaying.
Yeah.
They're,
Do we have any idea how many we're talking about in the county?
there's probably at least 3. But Commissioner Deeks was talking about down here, it should not affect anyone in this end of the county, because all the private haulers, when we changed it, we were allowed to do this in cash in 2005. We made it so that private haulers could not use the SRC. They could set for cashers, and then they had haulers go to the station. So if someone picks up your residential garbage at Silva or any surrounding area down here, they haul that directly to the
Well, I know this is not an item that we're going to decide today, and obviously, Chad's got quite a bit of work to do to comply with the state's request for filling out this questionnaire and getting his responses back to the state by the end of June, if I heard correctly. Then we got about 6 months time for him to hear from them about corrective actions potentially that we may have to do. I think we've got just a little time to talk about in the next couple of months about options, and I think it would be worth what I'm hearing from the board, that we do want to see, is there a creative way that we can come up with a solution so that in the county, does it mean that can we have a small transfer station? Could we convert this site to? I don't know what the answers are, but I think this might be a work session topic, Manager, that we come back with some more detailed information, maybe some statistics and numbers that we can sit down and talk about this in another format later.
So absolutely, that, if the board wants to come up or discuss the other solutions and actions, and that can be ongoing. I do, and I don't want to jump in front of you, Chad, but I don't know if we have 6 months on this commercial haul.
Correct.
We're currently, where we're at right now is, we feel like we're still in the interpretation of the law phase. We feel like that the interpretation is potentially going to end up where we just described it to you, and where those commercial haulers will have to haul to Silva. But I do believe it'll be within the next month or two that we'll have to make final interpretations. And we're trying to make sure we also give enough notice for the haulers and so forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then I'll say a little bit more, just I talked to permitting, Alan Gager, who's the permitting engineer for the Department of Environmental Quality. And if you're talking about a transfer station, I mean, you're talking about a few years out, if you're going to build something that meets their rules that they have put forth currently, we don't even know if that current site would even qualify or meet those rules at this point. It may be something you'd have to look at. Totally, I mean, those are, again, I know that's a work session, but he did tell me that in the meantime, we still have to abide by the state rules and the state laws. So even in that interim, if we were gonna try to do something, you still, those haulers still have to bring the waste. Yeah, I mean, I agree, that we don't have that long to interpret that part of it, have to happen. As far as what's gonna happen with all of it.
But we can follow up in a work session with the board wishes to discuss what it would take to eventually involve the transfer station. I think unfortunately, we're gonna be forced to enforce this rule without any alternative.
And I will say this, I mean, in 2005, we applied. Thinking we may need a transfer station permit, and the state came back with it and saying it wasn't required. But now that they find something that made the definition, clarified some of the stuff, it does have.
Didn't then, but it does now.
Other questions, comments? We look forward to following up with this in the future days.
Thank y'all.
Next, item 8, contract discussion. This is a carryover item from our previous work session. Travis, do you want to provide any additional information today?
I do not. I just provided the options that are still available that I met with the board, and this is really just putting on the agenda for general discussions amongst the board.
And I'm just going to be, a lot of times I do this, I'll just come out and say how I feel about something. For the sake of starting the discussion. Number one, I think Colorado Fire Department has a need. I think they have made it very clear that they have a need, they have an issue with being able to respond appropriately, to provide appropriate manpower. I think they've put together a plan to try to address that, and I would like to try to help Colorado Fire Department to address the need and the concerns that they have by transitioning to more of a framework, what's usually called where you have a combination department, where you have a few paid people and then you have still volunteers. However, I do not think, this is my personal opinion, I do not think establishing a fire tax district with somewhere between 10 to 12 cents in addition to the property tax being paid by our residents is a realistic approach for this. Personally, that's my personal belief. I think all of a sudden you go from, right now we're paying 38 cents on 100, and all of a sudden you're almost doubling that in some cases. And that's a huge tax increase burden for those people in that community. But at the same time, I want to find a way to try to help them. So personally, I'm just not in favor of a fire tax district for this community. And I think there are other options. Some of the things that's been highlighted here is to create this service, a county-wide service district, and potentially looking at dedicating some money from our general fund, or however we want to discuss it. But I think the burden would be scattered over a much broader base. And at the same time, I really think it would give us an opportunity to look at Colby's proposed budget, to go through that, have our staff sit down and to evaluate that budget proposal at more depth, and maybe reach out to our other rural fire departments in Jackson County and see what kind of needs they may have. If we're talking about 1, 2 pennies, whatever on the tax rate, there might be other needs in other communities where we've not had an opportunity to evaluate, and this might be a way to handle a lot of stuff at one time instead of having to come back and forth piecemeal. That's just what I'll throw out for discussion today. See how the rest of y'all do.
I agree. that's what you're saying, it's almost double. And that's gonna take a lot of people off. That's just my.
We currently spend $1.5 million on 1.555 on our county budget, out of our budget, correct, with all of the other 5 districts, not cash revenue. And it seems like 630,000 of that request from Cody Fire Department was labor. Is that right? Ballpark? 600?
Yeah, something like that.
What would happen with the monies? What could happen if that 1.5 years? Would it be going into that part of the pot of money and you just throw in another penny or two to meet needs of all districts? Would that be a fair assessment?
I think you could use money that's there and increase the tax rate and that too. But you're already done.
The concern I have with that is that, Cashers, it has this fire tax, and if we increase countywide, they're gonna be paying twice for fire protection that doesn't really apply to them because they already have fire tax. Is that correct?
Well, it could be done, I think there's ways that you can exclude cashers, or you could add cashers.
Is that a fair way to do that? I mean, legal. Yeah, that would answer that question.
And that would be something the board would have to discuss. But you can do, so if you go back and you look at the general property taxation versus the fire service district. So you're correct, if you raise general taxes, it's countywide,
Right.
and then you get into that discussion that you're bringing. Now, if the board wished to approach this like a fire service district, then you could potentially either leave Cashers Fire Service District alone and leave it separate and then create a whole other fire service district that encompasses the rest of the county. Or you could make one fire service district countywide and distribute the money. Now, again, that's not necessarily what Cashers is requesting. But if you understand what I'm saying, right now, the one proposal would be you have a fire tax in Hampshire, and you have a fire tax for the rest of the county. Or you sit there and look at, because currently right now, just so you know, you can make that same argument about the $1.5 million. Because that $1.5 million currently comes out of the tax base as a whole.
Yes.
Okay. So that issue that was just raised really is
They're still paying right now.
that they're still paying part of that 1.5.
Yeah.
So if the board is, I think in general terms, if the board is leaning towards an overall tax, whether it be 2 fire districts or 1 fire district, when I say 2 fire, I mean leaving Cashers alone and then creating another fire tax district, or just creating 1. If that's where the board's leaning, then I think we can come back with different numbers, come back to your work session and start trying to get you better understanding of what that would mean. And so then you also would have to decide whether or not you as a board, that's what you're leaning. I know, Brian, you just proposed that.
Yeah, and I just leave that out for discussion. And I guess too, Gail, another thing that I think take into consideration. While Cashers Fire District is talking about the equity of paying for other departments. Under the North Carolina Department of Insurance requirements standard, the only way that a fire department can qualify and meet the state requirement under the new standards, the only way they can meet those standards is through mutual aid.
Well,
Because-
you said that, yeah.
It's impossible for one department to provide enough manpower and enough equipment to be able to successfully comply with the requirements on the fire flow gallons per minute requirement that the state says.
Okay.
So just like Chief Green said when we were told the other day, you know, they are a mutual aid department to pretty much every department in Jackson County because of the way they're centrally located.
Exactly.
So, Cashier's Fire Department couldn't have their class 5 if it wasn't OED.
That helps me.
Balsam Fire Department couldn't have our class 5 if it wasn't for Silva and Colowee and Sawnook over at Haywood County. Every time there's a structure faced at Balsam, there are 4 departments that are going to respond automatically every time. It's just not one department responding anymore. You're talking about 4 and 5 departments that are all helping each other because that's the only way these requirements are being met by the state, is to have multiple departments respond simultaneously at the same time to the same call. So in some ways, you know, while we want to support all departments because all departments got to help support each other to be able to make this thing.
Okay, that helps.
I think that's the
Yeah,
justification
it does.
for how they're saying that.
Well said. What are needs of Boston Fire Department?
Well, and that's something that I think we need to reach out to these other departments. You know, our department, obviously I can speak for Boston Fire Department, having been currently the chief. You know, we don't need 8 people. We don't need the kind of trucks or equipment that Kansas needs. Boston runs less than 200 calls a year. But I think there is a need for some other potential capital items, maybe some additional person. You know, that's a question I'd have to sit down and ask the board of directors to put together, take a look at our budget, and then I can look to the county and say, is there potential for some assistance on additional funding? Savannah Fire Department, Canada, Silva, Koala. I think that's a question maybe we want to ask. We're considering looking at the big picture. Do we want to totally really look at the big picture, or are we just going to focus on the one aspect?
Well, and I did have a side conversation with Terry Ash and Chief Green in Coley, and I said, you know, my concern as a county commissioner is the senior citizen who lives in the Coley district who are maybe are in their 80s, and they might have 100 acres of land, but their income is Social Security right now, and we raise their taxes that much. That's going to have a hardship impact. So I said, make me feel better about that. And they said that, well, we could exempt, you know, some older people or something. I don't know. And then I started thinking, oh my goodness, get into that, and then you're opening up a big can of worms. So I agree with you that there are some situations that are real for people that reside in the Coley district, and I would not feel good about putting that kind of hardship on them.
Is anybody in favor of moving forward with a tax district that this is for Coley only? Because that's the thing that's time sensitive, is that correct? That if we wanted to establish a district for Coley community, that we have a time schedule that we have to meet.
So the only other time sensitive would be if we try to establish a service district all the county. Because it's the same process.
Same problem, okay.
And my concern would be, I agree with you that I feel that they made a very strong case for their need for additional personnel full time. And I would like to see us do that. So,
Okay.
no, Cody. Cashier's already has full-time for Cody.
Yeah, I agree.
I won't be line one. Just do it. You know, all this said, You build a brand new fire department, fire at the top. Then the full equipment. See, the rear end red, so where I have one of those straight. There's 2 or 3 pieces of apparatus sitting there. They're not. So not probably said. They're for real, these fire equipment. Some big buildings out there. Having substations everywhere. It seems like it must be a lot of money here, you know. Fire pit. And I know, it's like everybody said, they run well, 38 cents, 50 cents. Why? You start trying to explain someone on the word, they're up on any of these crazy, not going to know, I guess. But we want tax to get much because our parks to pay a thing. Where does it say about it? I've already heard from firemen at the highest level, too. Not been big yet. Hurt. And I like to thought a way to do something with that. Kill or something. How many fire departments we have?
7 total.
Usually I found it. Witness through the years that what's gets up special for this fire department. The other one, too. And I know sometimes y'all get upset because I'm going to get clipped up every day. And some of it's straight blue, like brown, like you talk about. But sometimes it seems kind of silly to me, like there's a house trailer, it's before, there's any other house. The kids don't fire it, they're going to be cashier's mark. The chief of our cashier's office, this is that rats up there. We've got to send 1 or 2 or whatever. Couple in the fire after. They got 50 firemen now. They got so many full time. Did you ever reach overkill? I always say, we need more than 2 lifeguards. 1 lifesaver, we do it better. Both. But if you know anything about these fire trucks, and apparatus, you stick your head in these places, no matter where it's at, this county. They don't have junk. This is right.
No, we're very fortunate in this county. Really good equipment. The only thing I would say is to add on to what Commissioner Deeds is saying. You know, you did make a difference if you got a $300,000 engine sitting there, brand new, all the bells and whistles.
or you got a $20,000 truck that's 35 years old and it's seen a lot of hard days. It doesn't really matter what truck's sitting there in the station. I think we've got to the point in this country, it's not just our community, it's not just our state, it's nationwide. And it's not just fire departments, it's Little League, it's civic organizations, it's churches, it's the full spectrum. We are just struggling to find volunteers. People don't volunteer enough. People don't volunteer like they did 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. You know, whether you look back in time, I don't know what all has changed. I don't know the full reasons. There's lots of reasons. A lot of people's lives are busier. People work more jobs. Sometimes, you know, today's life, people work sometimes 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They've got kids. They're involved in all these other activities. I don't know the mentality, the mindset of our nation has changed. I can't put a finger on any one particular. It might be a combination of all of it. But people don't volunteer like they used to. Or you go to a firehouse on Monday night, there'd be 30, 40 guys sitting there, and they'd be all excited about being there. You'd have a call, you'd have a big turnout. But today, I have literally been on call where I've been the only person on the truck. Me, myself, and I. Because nobody else comes. People are going to work. People are at home in the bed. Whatever reason they decide they can or can't come. Me, myself, and I dealt with it. I rolled on a call at first thing this morning. And back up. I went at 12:30 last night. There's 3 of us rolled on the carbon monoxide. We got 31 members in our department. I was just thinking my department out. I don't know where all of those people were last night. Some of them were working shift work. Some of them were at home staying with kids and couldn't leave. Some of them may have been out of town. Some of them may have been on vacation. Some of them may have been sick. I don't know. That's not for me to go knocking on doors to find out what their justification or reason why they didn't show. But there's 3 of us last night responding to a carbon monoxide. Got home, got back into bed, got back to sleep, and got up again this morning and rolled out to an automobile accident. There's 2 of us on that. So it's become a pattern. I think what Tullowee is experiencing and all the other departments is it's hard to find. Now there may be a structure fire, we may have a structure fire tonight, we may have 15. You know, it's the world that we live in. It's just we sign contracts with the county of Jackson. We're going to provide fire service, mutual aid. We're going to provide the full gamut. Someone calls 911 at 3 in the morning and whatever the situation is, their house is burned down, their trailer burned down, they've got throwing up, they got whatever's going on, they need help. They expect somebody to be there. We sign on a piece of paper that we're going to be there. We've got to find a way how do we meet that contract? Because we're legally liable. And I think that's what me and every other department in this nation is struggling with right now. How do you do it? And I think the mindset is, well, if you've got some paid people, maybe some of those people can fill in and take off some of the burden that's being borne by so many volunteers. I don't know the answer. Is that the magic bullet that solves the question? I don't think so. And I don't know how do we get to where we're at. I'm just interested in trying to help Tullowee and try to help the other departments because we do have some beautiful equipment. We've got some great equipment. We can buy all the equipment in the world. We can set it there until we get some people to drive it and roll on these calls and roll up their sleeves and get out there. Everybody wants the glorious things. Everybody wants to get out here on the real glory calls. But it's things that all the other times that's when you need it.
Yeah, bring your shiny fire truck with you, go get it, you'll be ready to drive.
But sometimes for your service, sometimes you wish for something that you get it. Now we've got 2 firemen, off, full time today. And these other firemen, they said, well, they're getting paid. Off the ground.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
They're getting paid, so I'm not gonna leave the job, or I'm not here with a kid. But if I was, they got 2 full time, but when you get those kids.
and here again, I don't know how to answer this. It's a mentality question. You know, my son had a piano recital last fall, the only piano recital all year. And the moment we're getting ready to leave to go to the piano recital, guess what happens? Right there. It activates. He's an idiot, run off the road, wreck. And so I went to the call and dealt with that, and everybody else goes to the piano recital and I miss it. Christmas Eve, families getting ready to sit down to have Christmas Eve dinner. Guess what happens? That right there, it's snowing. I got up from the table. I walked out the door. I said, I'll see y'all later. I got back home. The dinner was put up in the refrigerator. Everybody's in bed. The presents have been opened, and I sat down there. I mean, that's the life. And unfortunately, it's getting worse and worse and worse. I don't have it. I don't have to solve the problem. I think we've got to be creative. We've got to sit there in these departments and try to figure out a solution. And I don't know what it is. Sooner than later.
They have to go all day.
They have to.
Well, and that.
They have to have a combination district where we're still just mutual aid is all the time. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe thinking outside the box, being creative, come up with a. I think other counties, some of these small rural counties, are having to do like a county-wide fire department just to give enough people to show up.
Macon County has a fire tax, they're not a countywide fire tax. It'd be interesting to know.
I don't know if they do the county-wide, but do they have fire tax?
I recall we, in our,
Haywood has it.
it'd be interesting to know what our neighboring counties do or don't have a fire tax, just, and what that fire tax might be, what does that tax, what are the monies that tax brings in?
That would be good enough.
That would be helpful, because they're similar to us in many.
We always competed with our millage rate, Macon County, going back on the past, that's what's gone on the last 4 years. And they always include their fire tax when they compared, they historically have one of the lowest rates in the state. But that includes honestly a 2.5 cent countywide fire tax. So typically, we're a half a key ahead of them, but if you figure in fire tax, we have outdone Macon County.
And some departments have the district, Haywood may have it by district, I'm not sure. If I'm right, then 15 cents is the cap. You can't go any higher than 15 cents on the fire tax.
So if you do one method, then that's the highest method. If you do a fire service district, then what that applies to is your overall cap in your general fund, which is actually all 50. And you can choose whether or not you cap that. So basically, the third choice I gave you is mandated to be capped at 15. The fire district one is only capped if you choose to cap.
Okay.
So I'll summarize what I just saying. So am I hearing correct? It sounds to me, I'm hearing positive response that we want to try to help Colby move forward with potentially a full-time operation. Not necessarily interested in doing a 10 to 12 cent tax rate for that service district. We're interested in the needs of other fire departments. And we just have to figure out how to do it, which is a combination of a lot of what we just talked about. There.
Yes. Yeah, do that.
Because if that's a fair summary, what I would propose is that we do reach out, like what you're asking, Mr. Chairman, and start getting some input from the fire department about what their interest would be or what their needs are. allow staff to go back and come up with different potential ways, and not only, let's just forget it, let's just say no meetings increase from any of the other fire departments. We would still have to come up with creative ways to fund the COLA. So I think staff, we need to go back and start messing around with that, just to see what are the real options and what does it look like, even if you just proceed forward with COLA. If you're trying to not do anything 12 cents tax increase on that particular property. So I think at minimum, we have to come up with different options for that. But then again, if we want to proceed forward, we can also start the process about identifying additional needs in the fire department.
Yeah, we're not going to decide it today. I think we're going to research.
I think at minimum, like I say, I think we have to start working on obviously different ways to fund recovery requests. Is the board wanting us to reach out to the other fire departments and start receiving input or requests or having that discussion with them about their needs?
Yes.
I just think if we're going to tackle this decision, we're going to tackle this issue, better be all inclusive,
More comprehensive.
more comprehensive than all of a sudden vote on a budget in June and then next thing we know is, well, I didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what we'll do, then we'll go ahead. I need a week or two. I need to figure out a timeline. At minimum, we'll be talking about this at the work session, but I may be coming back and seeing potentially, depending on what the solutions are, maybe coming back and trying to get a couple of meetings from you the first of April. Now, I know we already got our normal schedule, but it may require maybe immediate. We'll just, I won't know that until I have time to sit down and think about this and get some feedback from our
And did that include also seeing what maybe Macon and Haywood
Yes.
and their,
Yeah, we'll also go back and
Pennsylvania.
figure out.
okay,
Any other questions, comments about this? Appointments. Do you have anybody? Matt?
Frank Burrow, and I emailed him a volunteer form today. And he said, I will say this, I should have had no difficulty in getting somebody, I know exactly where you're coming from, ex-public advisory board, but it doesn't mean that often, it's not a taxing increase, it's probably one of the easiest gigs there are.
It kind of falls back on what Brian was saying earlier. Nobody wants to volunteer people.
We've got some cashier area planning council members that rotate off because their numerous appointments, they're not eligible for the appointment. And so far, there's two rotate off and one that's up in May. And I've got 8 volunteers for those 3 spots right now. No, I guess it doesn't.
well, I was just gonna say, there's some interest right
A
now.
lot of good interest in good candidates. That's coming forward for that. That's a lot easier for us.
All right, well, we'll carry that one over and continue to work on it. Transit board, have we heard anything on that? All right, let's take a recess. I took a few minutes. 3 o'clock. Take about a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back. And when we come back in, we'll take the 5 to 10. Then we do have need for closed session personnel, and we'll go to closed session for that whole personnel. We'll be in recess.
I didn't do that. Okay. We're back on now.
All right, we'll come back to order. Item 10, transit, any update today? Transit advisory board? No. Okay, all right, we'll carry that one over. No press conference. Let me ask, who's still with us? Beth, can you hear us?
Yeah, no questions just yet. Thank you.
All right, is anybody else still on?
I don't see anybody.
All right, I think that's everybody. All right, we do have need for closed session for personnel. So we have a motion to go into closed session concerning GS 143. Okay, got a motion? Do we have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I think Don. Yeah.